also for the stability of our villages. I think it makes sense. Like Yamashi says, like it makes sense in character to do that. So
I think we could. I think realistically, if we were to have a forum zone where basically it's some country, NPC country, and anybody who's in there knows that it's for the specific purpose of, hey, the Kage or the various, major countries are trying to hash out what's wrong with the world, and what we're going to do about it. I think it could be done now more so than ever because now we actually have, NPC villages and countries. So there's really not that much of an excuse, and it's not like the Kage that we actually have left for, overly warmongers. I don't think the. Honestly speaking, all jokes aside, I don't even know who is the Kazekage. Do they take
Melkor?
Yeah, it's still Melkor. It's just in a different reincarnation.
Yeah. Dude, let's get one thing straight.
Makes a point because
Melkor is going to be the Kazekage 10 years after NC closes. So.
This is true. This is true.
I mean, you must not at fault here because Stone, like Sand's kind of like an isolated country. Like we have no idea. It's kind of like South Korea. Like we have North Korea. We have no idea what's going on in the country. It's like
it's there.
So in our defense, so this is a little known fact, and some of the Sandies don't even know this because you actually have to read our timeline to get it. We've only been on the ground for about 20 years. It hasn't been that long. Oh. Like I mean, we did drop off the grid. But we still actively trade with the trade capital in Wind Country, which is on the far southern side of Wind Country. So I mean, if you go down to Soon's Haven, it's one of our inner village areas. If you go to Soon's Haven and ask around about people from Sand, there are merchant tunnels that go between those two places. Like, granted, they're like miles upon miles long, and like take a little while to get there through the tunnels. But like we exist, and people know we're still there. But yeah, we do have a habit of kind of staying in the hole, which if you haven't caught on the underlying theme to the event, staying in the hole is kind of death, is kind of what I'm kind of pushing at towards.
Xenophobia is bad. Okay.
Well, personally, if I could have had things my way, I would just completely blow up our underground sand, have everyone become homeless, and then just rebuild a village from scratch. Because I think that would be awesome. Because it'd give you an opportunity to go to every other village and be like, yo, we need your help and some resources. Hook us up. Yeah,
diplomacy.
Seriously, they're like, we're homeless, but we don't want to stay with you. We just kind of need some of your stuff.
Ninja hobos.
Oh yeah,
seriously, man. Dude, ninja hobos.
I think that's pretty interesting because Stone, what it's kind of shaping up to be with us is that we basically just closed our borders in order to deal with internal problems. We kind of have that whole Eastern, Western Roman Empire thing going where the east side is controlled by the daimyo and the west side is just kind of, or the western half of the country is just kind of
like how Cloud is, because Cloud basically we have the ninja and we also have the shogun, and it's kind of like a political battle where each faction can overpower the other, so it's kind of like it's kind of like a silent war, but no one wants to like do anything because it'll disrupt the country's economy and things like that. So.
Well, we just built a wall. So, the western half of the country
that
is
works?
Just whatever happens.
Is it like Rome or is it more like Berlin?
Berlin, the Berlin Wall, yeah.
It's kind of like Game of Thrones. You get sent.
Is everybody going to die that I know and love?
No, I don't think our great houses have started fighting yet. But once you go over the wall, you're on your own. Don't ask for help. As a matter of fact, that's a job of some of the sending to actually, handle the wall, because the Kage's not doing that. Sitting in Westeros.
I had a question for you, Mashi, and feel free to decline. That event you're planning. Would you be willing to discuss that?
Well,
the contract one.
Well, the event that we're planning for the contracts is basically that this guy, I don't know if you watched the movie. It was a Naruto movie where it actually introduced the whole chimera aspect. Guy was basically running around. Yeah, he was stealing bloodlines, and he actually fused contracts. And so the event is something like that where basically a normal person, he's like, you know what, I'm tired of these guys running things, and I want to basically become something more than human. So he attempts to make contracts, which isn't natural. Contracts are just supposed to happen out in nature and that wild, wonderful place we call Chakra Land. But so he attempts to make contracts, and it actually splits the contract beings, you know, as far as what's the word I'm looking for? It splits them down the middle. Not necessarily a good versus evil thing, but is it right for humans to basically step into our world, sort of thing. Obviously, up until this point, there's really been no concrete rule on if you can go to a contract world, so to speak, you know, Toad Mountain. But basically what this human guy attempts to do is he attempts to basically push his way into contracts. And so the contracts get split. It actually causes a war within the contracts in which there you have some contract creatures that are battling against this human guy who made contracts, and some contracts are actually, you know, looking for an opportune chance to wipe each other out. You know, we have Kami and the yokai. So obviously they're going to be at odds. You might think of dogs and cats, the feline, the canine contract. They might be at odds. They might be snipping at each other's heels, while ultimately everybody's concerned about what happens when this human guy, you know, attempts to, if not replace contracts, but overpower the contracts and take them over. And so the thought with that is that all this commotion eventually spills over into, you know, the realm of humans, if you will. So eventually that's where village or faction contracts come up, because they've long been dormant. They haven't had a need to defend, you know, their factions, their villages or whatever in a long time. So now that you have this war going on in this other plane, it spills over, and now, hey, you have village contracts. You know, Cloud might have, you know, this great lightning bird, you know, come out of the sky, and he's like,
Zapdos.
It's not flying here. Exactly. You know, all that stuff stops at the gates. And so it's really ambiguous, I think, because I don't think we've ever had an event of this, I won't even say magnitude per se, but an event that tied together the releasing of a system or new contracts via RP in which everybody affects the outcome. Of course, the factions would make their contracts, but ultimately the players would determine who won. And so we'd actually, hopefully, you know, we'd still end up with a contract that was technically made by humans. You figure a lot of these contracts, if you look at the history of them, they don't have an age or a time in which they started. It's always, well, a long time ago in a village far, far away, some frogs learned how to talk. Exactly. Now we have talking turtles. But this would be one of those things where, hey, this contract is a year old. Or, I mean, it's just, the ideas really are limitless on actually creating something in the Nimpocho world. And so it's kind of what we're attempting to do. Of course, you have to go through the proper channels, because contracts, especially a village contract or a faction contract, it wouldn't just affect the contract team. It'd affect the players, because, you know, now there's a battle system involved. They have stats. They have jutsu. They can actually attack people. You can get in a battle with somebody and simply use your contracts to do. That'd be Pokemon, I do believe. But it's going to take a lot of work. A lot of work from the councils, the players, development team, the admin, because you can't really mess up with something like that, or it could cause it could stall the site, I would say. If you're working on a system like that and it involves stories, it involves villages, and all of a sudden somebody decides to rage quit and delete a bunch of stuff, that would be terrible.
That has actually happened before, so
I was there.
Tend to take precautions now.
Yeah.
You were. You were there when they did that.
Yeah.
Never a fun thing.
That pushed back V 5.5 by what, 3-4 months?
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. So it's a work in progress. Naturally, the goal is really to get the users on the site involved in the story with contracts. We want them to be more than just something that you spend a couple AP in a battle to summon just because you know that extra special attack is going to kill everybody. You know, we really want the contracts to be something that not only the players develop, but actually means something. That when you sign this contract, you know, there's history on the site that other characters can attest to that, man, you know what, this guy was super legendary, not just because you said he was legendary, but because they actually did something that mattered in the world. So, yeah, that's that.
Kyaku has a question in regards to the
K-Cat.
K-Cat. Oh, that's K-Cat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, K-Cat. He has a question in regards to the faction contracts. He's asking if it would it be something like where people control like one or more contracts?
A faction contract.
Yeah.
The hope is that it wouldn't. If I'm understanding the question correctly, is he asking like would it take up a slot?
Basically, he wants to know, would anyone in that faction be able to get one, or would it be like everyone is able to control it, or only certain people, or what?
It would be one of those things, much like, well, with the contracts now, something that we had to revamp was that the way that the S ranks, we used to have it to where the S rank was the actual head contract, if you will, head contract creature, which didn't make sense. If everybody can control the leader of this contract, it just it's conflict. Yeah, it just, you can actually end up summoning the contract leader against himself. Doesn't make sense, and so
yeah, that's a bit.
It doesn't. So the same thing would work with faction contracts. You'd have, let's take sand. They have sandworms. You know, their head sandworm, you could never summon him. You could talk to him through, you know, village council, but it would be one of those things where everybody a part of that faction would get a chance to sign that. Now, what they would need to do would be something that would be worked out between that village council and the contract team. It could be something as simple as, you know, hey, you have to go on this mission that the contract team has approved the Sand Council to allow. So anybody who goes on this mission is allowed to get this contract. Now, on the same token, just as easy as it could be to gain, once you've nuked or left that village, became a mercenary, you would lose that contract. That, I mean, it doesn't make sense for, you know, the lightning bird over Cloud to keep protecting you, and you just, you know, told the Kage to go kick rocks and you left the village. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, he's not going to be happy with you anymore. You just broke your contract with him.
Exactly. So that's where the mercenary, the missing men, that's where their contracts would come into play, because their contracts could very well be contract creatures that basically left the other villages. There's a lot of ideas. You could have a sandworm that basically said, you know what, I'm tired of eating sand. I want to do something different. Or, I mean, you could, there's so many different ways you can take it, but yeah, it'd be something that it would be easier to obtain, but on the same token, it would be more specific to the people versus just some generalized, here's a turtle.
Also, what happens when two people use the same contract in the same, like, you know, vicinity? Like, yeah.
Like if I have insect and you have insect and we both summon the top insect summon.
You want to know
they just stare at each other and like, nah, we're not getting involved here?
That's, I've only been on the website since August of 2007. I lurked back in 2006. It's never happened.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what I was
as
saying.
a matter of fact,
people don't use contracts all that much, I found.
They don't. But as a matter of fact, I do have a somewhat of a running list of who all has the contract. I'm not going to tell names, but the list of contracts is pretty dismal.
Yeah.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23 people on the website have contracts.
Over 100.
Over those that are the people that are
got
actually
like 150 people on the site. So
right. So 23, and that's only the people who actually have their contracts listed. It's probably more than that. It's probably closer to
15%.
Yeah, but I mean, I would venture to say that there's closer. I counted 23. I would say there's closer to 35, 40 people with contracts. Cloud actually has the most people with dual contracts.
Yeah,
followed closely by yeah. But I mean, up until a certain point, you were the only 3.
Yeah.
So the most popular contract is Kami.
Kami, really?
Kami and Yokai are about the. Yeah.
I'm
Kami.
trying to look for Snake.
I'm trying to get a Kami, so it's kind of weird because Jake wants to get a Yokai and I want to get Kami. So.
No, I want to get Snake.
Oh, you want to get Snake? Okay.
I had a chance to get Kami, which would have been funny because, Hoshikata's not a very good person, so he would have taken that Kami summon and just showed it off the shin to make him jealous.
I take that back. It's not the most.
Yeah,
it's
end
the
of
most
the day,
failed.
End of the day, I was convinced there is no way at all that a Kami contract would ever work for him. They would burn that contract book before they let him sign it.
I take that back. The most gained contract is Feline with 4 users.
Okay.
The rarest is quite a lot. I think I'm the only person with that. There isn't a single person with Slug.
Yeah.
Slug's useless.
No one wants Slug.
Is Slug the same contract from Tsunade in Naruto?
Yeah. Technically, that contract, each and every summon is the exact same being, just smaller.
Slug is good for healing, but, it's a slug, so a lot of people don't want it.
I mean, there's very few contracts being used, honestly. But if you notice the events in which contracts have been given out, there have been a lot of contracts that aren't necessarily popular, like Insect, Bear, which is incredibly good. I'm not going to go into the build totals of it, but Bear is very good for people who are looking for good stuff. But, yeah, contracts really, I would personally like more people to get them because if you think about it, they're not all that special. But I don't even like looking at, okay, this person did 2 pages of talking. They passed this test. Hey, welcome to contract world. It's kind of
lame. I was about to ask about that. I think one of the big reasons that a lot more people don't have contracts is just, let's take a look at Isori, for instance. His contract search started before Mistfell, which was back in late November. And I think it's still ongoing, isn't it?
I'm the person running it. Yes, it is.
Yeah. So, I mean...
in the topic, he's a misman. It's not. I think the longest one I ever modded was... What was his name? Used to be the Sand Sending way back in the day. Oh, man.
Suki?
Not Suki.
You remember who it... Not Andy, I'm guessing.
No.
Kazuki,
I can't think of that guy's
Shiori,
name.
Raiko.
Wasn't sure. It was a guy. I can't think of his name. I know that his contract.
Yeah, what's up, dude?
CJ, this is your territory.
What I miss?
Sand. Sending from V5.5. He had actually left, came back.
Oh, it wasn't Magoya, was it?
No.
No. Magoya was never ascending. 5.5?
It wasn't Bakataka.
Hang on.
He was like main branch.
No, it wasn't Dane. Well, Dane was main branch. Actually, no, Dane was on boot.
Yeah,
what am I saying?
It was.
But he was 5-1.
Oh my God, what is his name? Oh my God, his actual name is Andy.
Oh yeah, that was Kazuki.
There we go. Thank you. It was Kazuki. Karakaze Kazuki.
Yeah.
Yes, with an E, not an I, because Japanese names. Yeah, his topic, I kid you not, took from November of like 2010 into something like April of 2011. Again, I modded it, and it's one of those things where people get busy, life happens, and he did that. I mean, that was pretty bad. But that's just the dangers of contract searches. You go to this place, and if anything happens, you can still be in that topic, and so much stuff in your life can happen. I remember I modded a topic with Carl. He was Kage. He became, in the middle of a contract search, he became Kage, he was ascending, became Kage, died, still in the contract search. So by the time he finished the search, he had technically earned a contract for a character that died in battle. It's like, he's actually, I would say he's the one person who's had the most contracts.
Yes, 2 plus 1, so yeah.
Yeah, he was the first person with 3 on this site, but even on the last site, each one of his characters, he's always had a contract for every character he's played.
So I
think I've modded every one but one.
I just dropped a link in the Skype chat for you guys to look at. This is a currently ongoing contract search in Sands Outer Village area involving Mikoboshi and Koro as the mod. Started in May of 2013.
Whoa. I'm not going to lie. There are... Let me be clear,
that
people.
leads right to my question. Are y'all considering any systems to not have year-long contract searches?
For the record, this contract could have ended 2 pages before.
This is 4 pages deep, by the way. For those wondering, it isn't stalled out on page 1. It's 4 pages deep.
It's Kuro and Raiko, so, neither one of them are exactly known for fast posting anyways.
Yeah, but Rico's done some footwork in this topic, man. If you've read this, Rico has done some work. He just hasn't gotten the contract yet. Kuro's making him jump hoops.
Your contract search do not have to take. We recommend at least 2 pages, because if you think about it, 2 pages is 16 posts. It's really not that long when you think about it. But if you feel as though your mod is taking just a ridiculously long time, I do believe we actually have a rule for that. It's something like, if it takes longer than a week between it's one of those things in which, if you guys have it understood that, hey, I'm going to post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then it becomes 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you see this person talking about the latest manga chapter, or about how they just, maxed out all the characters on League of Legends, and they're ignoring your topic, you can alert either myself or the admin to the fact that this contract mod isn't doing their job. On the flip side, though, if you being a character decide, well, you know what, I'm going to do this, that, and all this other stuff, and you ignore your topic for, I'm going to look for it, but it's up there somewhere. It's like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. The mod can automatically fail you. But even with that, there's a check and balance. You're only actually allowed to fail a contract so many times. Or if mods continually drop your contract for whatever reason, they're claiming they're too busy, then you can eventually just automatically get the contract. It actually happened to Kami where his contract, for whatever reason, he went through 3 or 4 different mods. And then it was just like, you know what, dude, you suffered enough. You shouldn't have to constantly restart this topic because of the error of others. So it shouldn't take 4 pages worth. We're asking for 2, but the things in which we're considering, there's a lot of, I just took the really long way around that answer, right? But the things that we're considering to a degree, turning it over to the players themselves to simply write something up. If that's what these events have actually been testing, that's the purpose of them, that people didn't figure out, was to test different ways to earn a contract. So far, people pretty much get the idea of, okay, I need to make this story worthwhile. We're looking at a lot of systems, but we can't quite turn it over. At least I don't think so, because the second you say, hey, look, you no longer have to run this by the contract team, well, then you'll have people finding, I got this well contract because I drank some water and somehow I got drunk off of this water and I had a dream. And, Pinocchio happened, and I woke up. That
sounds like something someone's actually done.
I'm not saying anything. I mean, you'll have people getting contracts over even in Nimpocha, this world we've created. There's still some logical things that need to happen. You're not going to find a whale while lost in the desert. I'm sorry.
And if you do, I want some of whatever you had.
It was a mirage. It really wasn't a well. But I mean, it's one of those things where we're looking to loosening up. You know, giving the players more freedom. Maybe one of those things where you just post, hey, we do it like or Kenjutsu. Hey, we have a word count, 1,500 words, and this contract's yours. Well, I mean, eventually people are going to complain, oh, it's too long. But I mean, if you can't cook up 1,500 words on how you found a talking turtle, then I don't think you really deserve that talking turtle. I
think I could cook up 1,500 words just on how I got to where a turtle talks to me. Much less the actual turtle talking to me part.
People cook up. It's funny. People make more interesting RPs when it comes to their dojo training than they do with their contracts and different ninjutsu sometimes. So it's one of those things where the contract team, we're looking to making it easier, but we're not just gonna, hand them out like free hotcakes or something. Government cheese. It's not going to be that simple.
There is nothing wrong with government cheese.
Nope.
One thing I'm a little bit worried about is that if contracts become like Kenjutsu, it becomes like everybody has a contract, everybody has a Kenjutsu. We lose the kind of the speciality of like having this like incredible power, incredible thing that everybody has. Right now, contract is kind of in a better spot than Kenjutsu because not everybody has a contract, so it's more worth getting them. Rather than like Kenjutsu where everybody has a Kenjutsu, so it's not as worth as the contract. So
that's true. That's true.
So I'm just worried about that and that's there. Hopefully, contracting doesn't go that route like the Kenjutsu route right now. So
it's one of those things where I don't think if everybody wanted to get a contract, there's nothing the contract team could do to stop them. I mean, with Kazuki, what he actually figured out inadvertently was in the old system, if you failed 3 times, whatever contract you searched for, you automatically got it.
Yeah.
And if you denied every contract, you can automatically get, the demon contract back then. So I mean, it's one of those things where, to a degree, you want to keep it special, but on the same token, everybody should have the chance to. I mean, if you look at the manga, the source material, with Naruto the story, everybody and their mother has a contract.
Yes.
Like people's contracts have contracts in Naruto. Sasuke's done what? Snakes, hawks, fire, like weapons, like contracts.
Didn't explain.
Fire's a contract?
No.
I mean, well, I know for a certain fact he's had snakes, hawks, and remember right before he got his brother's eyes, he was summoning he had little wristband summoning circles. He was chucking.
Oh yeah, he was summoning shurikens and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I mean, Tenten, if you think about it, Tenten was technically the first contract or the first summon we ever saw. She summons weapons. I mean, it's one of those things where the source material lends itself to there being so many different things, but on the same token, in the source material, everybody has personalized contracts. By the way, the team that was completely voted down by way of vote. Some of us wanted personalized contracts, but that would have been a system. You'd have to pay people to make that system.
That's a good lead into what I was going to ask next. How does the contract team about people reflavoring a contract? I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I'm the best example I can think of. In the last event, I won Insect. Now, obviously, my character and the guidelines for Insect don't really meet. So instead of having about what it should be, I turned it into, insects, in my mind, would also cover things like locusts, flies, and things associated with death. So I worked that angle on it and had it that instead of insects being what they should be, which I don't think I'm supposed to say, instead I focused on some insects that create death, famine, disease, and had them pretty much grant the contract to my character.
That's perfectly fine. The whole thing with that is to make it logical. Obviously, with certain creatures like foxes, you figure I would dare venture to say, and nobody, get all extra scientific